It's, quote, "It's not me, it wasn't right." In May, intelligence leaders testified before the Senate Intelligence Committee.
As the assembled leadership of the intelligence community, do you believe that the January 2017 intelligence community assessment accurately characterized the extent of Russian activities in the 2016 election and its conclusion that Russian intelligence agencies were responsible for the hacking and leaking of information and using misinformation in order to influence our elections? Simple yes or no would suffice.
Well, I didn't do it.
I do. Yes, sir. Yes, Senator.
Yes, I do.
Yes, I do. Yes.
Yes.
It's been 7 months since those 6 yeses. Administration officials tell the Washington Post the president has never convened a cabinet meeting about Russian interference or what to do about it. Never. Not once. One former high-ranking Trump administration official tells the Post there's an unspoken understanding of the National Security Council not to raise the issue because that would acknowledge its validity, which the president would take as an affront. Keeping him honest, a threat to national security should trump one man's feelings, even if, especially if, that man is the President of the United States.
This is CNN Breaking News.
We begin tonight, keeping him honest, with the president for the first time leaving open the possibility of pardoning the first person inside his administration to be charged in the special counsel's Russia investigation. Former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, as you know, pleaded guilty of lying to the FBI about conversations with Russia's ambassador. He's now cooperating with Robert Mueller's investigation. Today on the White House South Lawn, the president was asked whether he would consider pardoning Flynn. Here's what he said.
I don't want to talk about pardons for Michael Flynn yet. We'll see what happens. Let's see.
We'll see, let's see, is among the president's favorite phrase. A vague cliffhanger is used to talk about the fate of everything from the Paris Climate Accord to war with North Korea. Now, we'll see could suggest there is consideration being given to pardoning Michael Flynn. We'll see could be a message to Flynn that no matter what Mueller threatens him with, he can still be bailed out. It's the first time the president has opened the door to the possibility of pardon, which of course set off a lot of alarm bells, though attempting to tamp the whole thing down. White House attorney Ty Cobb said this in a statement a bit later after the president's remarks. Quote, "There is no consideration being given to pardoning Michael Flynn at the White House." That's what we call a walk back, and it's in keeping with what Sarah Sanders said about whether a Flynn pardon was on the table 10 days ago.
Okay. Would you consider pardoning him?
I'm not aware of that has come up or any process or decision on that front.
So you haven't talked to him about it, or
no? I haven't asked. I haven't asked the president whether or not he would do that. I think before we start discussing the pardons for individuals, we should see, what happens in specific cases too.
So is it fair to say it's on the table?
No, I just said I haven't had the conversation with them because I don't feel that it's necessary until you get further down the road and determine whether or not that's even something needed.
As I said, that's pretty close to Ty Cobb's statement that a pardon isn't something being considered. Now, either the president is saying something that's not true, or it's true and he hasn't told some of his closest advisors about it, or maybe those advisors know it's being considered by him and they're not telling the truth in their statements. None of those are great options, at least if you're one of those people interested in getting the facts. But frankly, the mixed messaging on things like this from the White House is not anything new. Let's go back to the firing of FBI Director James Comey. Here's what the president said in April.
Is it too late now to actually just step down?
No, it's not too late, but, I have confidence in him. We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. Less than a month later, on May 9th, then Press Secretary Sean Spicer had this exchange at the press briefing.
Does the president still have full confidence in FBI Director James Comey?
I have no reason to believe. I haven't asked him. Really? So I have not asked the president since the last time we spoke about this.
And the last time you spoke about it, you said he did have confidence, but you're not sure to say that again now?
Well, I don't, in light of what you're telling me, I don't want to start speaking on behalf of the president without speaking to him first.
Now, that was a good call because Comey was fired hours after that press briefing. Steve Bannon also got a we'll see from the president. In August, the president was asked if he still had confidence in Bannon.
Well, we'll see. And look, I like Mr. Bannon. He's a friend of mine. But Mr. Bannon came on very late. You know that. I went through 17 senators, governors, and I won all the primaries. Mr. Bannon came on very much later than that. And I like him. He's a good man.
Of course it was a good shot. I was right on top.
He's not a racist, I can tell you that. He's a good person. He actually gets a very unfair press in that regard.
Oh my God.
But we'll see what happens with Mr. Bannon.
We'll see what happens. Bannon, by the way, was out 3 days later, but his fingerprints, of course, remain, and he figures into the president's remarks today in other ways as well. A super PAC aligned with him, a group called Great America Alliance, has been running an ad in local cable markets calling for members of Robert Mueller's team to be fired. The ad features a Fox News commentator, and it fits right in with the campaign Fox News has been on to try to discredit the Mueller investigation, a campaign that the president is, of course, fully on board with. Here's a longer version of what the president said about Flynn today.
I don't want to talk about pardons for Michael Flynn yet. We'll see what happens. Let's see. I can say this. When you look at what's gone on with the FBI and with the Justice Department, people are very, very angry.
Now, one can assume that the very, very angry people the president is talking about are himself, Sean Hannity, and other Fox News anchors who've been on a campaign against the Mueller investigation, which is fine. The president can watch whatever TV programs he wants, but he probably should also be getting intelligence briefings about Russia's interference in the election, or perhaps holding a cabinet meeting or two about that interference. The recent reporting in the Washington Post says that doesn't happen, because if someone tries to talk about that particular attack on American democracy, it upsets the president and takes the briefing off the rails. So just think about that for a moment. The daily briefings are structured to avoid upsetting a president who deems anything that he doesn't like fake news and anything Russia-related an effort to delegitimize him. Nothing, it seems, can break his feedback loop with Fox News talking points. Certainly not intelligence he refuses to hear and facts he refuses to accept.
Full-throated pushback in the Russia investigation, attacks on special counsel Mueller, attacks on the FBI and Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. Now add the president's eldest son and namesake to that list, Donald Trump Jr. This evening in West Palm Beach, referring to those FBI personal texts, the Steele dossier, and slamming what he seems to think is a double standard where his father is concerned.
Imagine what would happen if we roll back the clock to 2008 and a conservative director of the FBI and high-up people in the FBI that were leading all these investigations wrote an email about in an insurance policy, the dossier, in the unlikely event that Barack Obama was elected president.
No.
What do you think would happen? Do you think the media would cover that? Yeah.
No dirty noises.
Do you think it would be brushed under the rug like, oh, it's nothing, it doesn't mean anything? There'd be revolution in the streets.
Really? Why are you shooting out of there?
So I'm glad that this is coming out now because it is good because real people have to see this. You know, my father talked about a rigged system throughout the campaign, and people are, oh, what are you talking about? But it is. And you're seeing it.
Team, same dude.
There is, and there are people at the highest levels of government that don't want to let America be America.
People who don't want to let America be America. Joining us now, Congressman Adam Schiff, the ranking Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee. Congressman, thanks so much for being with us. What's your reaction to what Donald Trump Jr. just said?
Well, he apparently forgets the fact that in real time what happened last year was the director of the FBI talked about an investigation into Hillary Clinton even 10 days or less before an election, but did not tell the country that there was also an investigation going on of the Trump campaign over a far more serious matter. That is whether individuals of the Trump campaign had been suborned essentially as agents of a foreign power. So for the most consequential difference between how these investigations were handled, it cut very much in Donald Trump's favor, and that seems to be something that Donald Trump Jr. would rather ignore.
He says there are people who don't want to let America be America, suggesting there's some kind of conspiracy, perhaps, to undermine his father's administration. Is there any conspiracy like that?
No, but you have to realize this is, I guess, a Trump family characteristic, and that is to always view themselves as the victim of something, victim of a rigged system, victim of an unfair FBI, victim of unfair press coverage. This seems to be a genetic trait. But the reality is that I think our FBI and our Department of Justice have a lot of really dedicated public servants whose work is being maligned right now because there's an effort to tear down those institutions, to tear down what Bob Mueller may find, to discredit it in advance by casting doubt on the integrity of these institutions. In the meantime, of course, they do enormous damage to our democracy and undermine public confidence in the administration of justice.
Trying to undermine Robert Mueller's investigation. There are questions that you've raised about whether the Republicans in a way trying to undermine what's going on, even in the House Intelligence Committee. You have an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal today where you say you've made progress, but you also say Republican members have posed challenges. Explain that.
First off, he's hacked.
Well, there are a number of steps the Republicans are taking which don't make sense from an investigative point of view, and they're a departure from how we've operated in the past. Probably the most graphic example, they've scheduled key interviews out of state, including one tomorrow, when we have another vote on the tax bill, and we have a vote potentially tomorrow to keep the government open. So why would they be scheduling interviews out of state if they simply didn't want us to be present during the interviews? Now, these are interviews with witnesses that we've been asking them to bring in for months, and they've sat on. So what is the headlong rush to do it now, if not to try to end the investigation? And that's my fear. We saw on display in the Judiciary Committee last week an effort to discredit Mueller, discredit the FBI, discredit the Justice Department, to shut down Mueller. We're seeing in our committee, in the Intelligence Committee, an effort to bring the congressional investigation to a premature conclusion. And that ought to concern all Americans who want to get to the truth.
Is this something that either the